Morning, everyone. Morning. I think we're live. So welcoming you to this live stream. I'm just going to be sharing it in my group. And please invite people who you think this would really resonate with. They're really welcome. And yeah, we're going to get started. So if you're arriving, let me know in the comments if you're joining live or on the replay, as I just make sure that this is also in my group. Yeah. Okay, so I think we're live on the group as well. Yes, perfect. So thank you everyone for joining me on this really important topic, because I think so many of us are really feeling the feels and wanting to help, wanting to do something, feeling powerless. And so I wanted to come and talk to you about a subject that I really help so many of my clients process. And that is any trauma that we hold, that's held within our bodies, within our souls, and within our womb. So this topic is particularly about how to process generational trauma of rape and of losing loved ones in war. And so please join in as I speak. How I'm going to speak is I'm going to be talking about first a cosmic perspective, and then I'm going to get into a humanitarian perspective, because I think it's really important that we look at both points, because I think there's something for us all to learn here. So from a cosmic perspective then, if we really just take a step back from everything, so I'm not talking about war, I'm not talking about what's happening right now, but I'm talking about a cosmic perspective. And the cosmic perspective of cycles is creation and destruction. A lot of the gods and some of the religions, they have creator gods and they have destructor gods. And sometimes it's the same God. And we need both. This universe is a recycling, cyclical universe, and we are very much part of that. We need both creation and destruction. And a lot of us feel this elation with creation, an obsession with growth, with progress, with moving forwards, with birth, with things coming into being, with creating our projects, creating our business, bringing our launches on, perhaps, getting that next level in our job, in, the next level of promotion, or perhaps expanding our business into the multi-millions. So there's always a desire for growth and an elation, I would say, almost obsession with just creation. And that's great, but it seems like we have a demonization of destruction, a real avoidance of contraction, a condemnation, like when we are in destruction or when we are in things destroying in ourselves, in our bodies, in our business, in our life, in our relationships. It's like we have this attitude that nothing good happens here. And I want to invite a cosmic perspective into this, because if we live in a loving universe, which I believe that we do, then destruction and cycle is part of that. And so often I would invite you to reflect on the destruction that you have in your life, perhaps in relationships, in your business, in things falling apart. Instead of just avoiding it and saying nothing good happens here, I would invite you to look at where is the richness in this. Because in these times of contraction, we get stripped back to the essential. We get back to what's really important in life and what really matters in life. And if you speak and read to some of the great people that have been through these dark nights of the soul and worse unimaginable things that we can think of, like the book by Viktor Frankl, then you see that they actually have beauty there. So I want to invite this perspective because there seems to be an avoidance of anything that's about destruction. And as we live in a cyclical universe, and as we are cyclical, we born, we grow, and we die. That is one of the things in our physical bodies that is part of nature. We are part of nature. Trees come and go, plants come and go. You know, this is part of nature, and an avoidance of that, a condemnation of that, is almost avoiding half of the beauty that this universe offers us. And I'm not applying this to this war. I want to make that clear, but I want to make this an important point, because if we apply this creation and destruction principle in our lives, it can help us be more balanced when we are going through the downs, instead of just loving the highs and avoiding the downs, just loving the highs and avoiding the downs. This is like up and down, almost bipolar type kind of emotion. And it means that your well-being, your way through in life is always up and down. It's not in the present. It's not opening your heart to what is, opening your heart to what is. And then I want to bring this down then and start talking about war in general. And you know, wars are constantly going on. The most recent ones that I can think of are Sierra Leone, Rwanda. Now we have this war with Ukraine and Russia. And it's very easy for us to point fingers and to get into judgment and hate and resentment. And all of these energies of judgment and hate and anger are probably energies that we don't really want to focus on, because we're actually adding to the separation, and instead of seeing the oneness within and opening our hearts to that, we're actually creating more fragmentation, more negative energy, more coming together of the opposites instead of an appreciation and love for all. And instead of this, you know, getting into judgment and hate and resentment, I want to invite again a reflection of what about the war that we host within ourselves, the war against ourselves that we have, this inner critic that's constantly putting us down, constantly saying it's wrong, constantly getting at us. Or perhaps the war against our neighbors, where we have, you know, different levels of war, jealousy, comparison, all of these things which are essentially existing on some plane in existence. And it's very easy for us to judge and make and point fingers. So I'm really wanting to invite there in a self-reflection. So now I want to come down to the human perspective. And so many of us have been speaking to so many clients and colleagues, mentors, and we are really feeling this war that's happening right now. And how we feel that it tends to be collectively, we feel the collective, and then also generationally, this generational experience that our ancestors, our lines have been experiencing war. Before I get into this, I want to make a very clear point that I am going to be talking about energies and not gender. So war, where does it come from? How does it start? Well, you could say it comes from megalomaniacs, psychopaths, and the regimes that support them, that are wanting more power, more land, more resources, more control. And this thirst for power and control is a wounded masculine trait. It's wounded because it's disconnected from the lost feminine, the feminine part of us that knows all, that feels all, and that sees all, the part of us that sees the highest possible intuitive wisdom, and that feels the collective, that has this empathy, that has this knowing of what is right for all, this connection to the oneness. Now, when that feminine has been split off, and it's been split off for so many of us, I'm not talking about men, I'm talking about energy and all of us, this feminine has been repressed and desecrated for a few thousand years. And so what's happened is we've had this rise in a wounded masculine leaders that are psychopathic in nature, and leaders in terms of countries, politics, corporates, big corporates, are acting from a way that is ignoring this collective feeling of what is good for all and what is good for the planet. And it's almost like their thirst for power and growth is bigger than the need for protection and safety. And protection and safety are beautiful, divine, masculine traits to provide. When we are in our divine masculine, we want to provide protection and safety. And, you know, masculine energies, this organizing energy, this focused energy, this structured force in the universe is so amazing when it's connected to the feminine, because it's able to structure and organize things that are good for the all. Now, if you have this organizing structured force without the feminine, then you're organizing and structuring things for thirst and growth at any cost. And this is what has been happening. So feminine, when the feminine is restored and when she is owned, and when you know all and feel all, you cannot take actions against humanity and the planet in this way. You just can't, because you know that you are part of everyone. You know that you are everyone. And so this patriarchal, wounded masculine order, as I said, has been in power for a few thousand years now. And those of us who are sensitive can sense that this way of being makes no sense. It's like we can't understand it. It seems crazy and absurd. And as I said, we feel it collectively. We feel the collective pain, the human pain of our brothers and sisters in another country right now, experiencing extreme violence and fear. And also we are carrying it generationally. And a lot of us are consciously or unconsciously processing this war and the devastation on humanity and the planet right now. So if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling run down, if you're feeling emotional, if you're feeling overwhelmed, all of these emotions, often they're a sign that you are processing the pain of this war consciously or unconsciously. So if we think about the effects of war, it has so many effects, and I can't possibly name them all, but the ones that come to mind when we go down and talk about men and women, men are forced into fighting. They have a loss of their land, of their assets, their property, and to that, their identity, a loss of their loved ones. And because men are often the ones sent to fight, they are processing the wounds of war, of what they have seen and what they have done, and the loss of their comrades. And that is really difficult to process. We have whole generations of military in the UK. I say that because I'm close to the UK. I have a military family where they are trying to process what they have seen and experienced in the Middle East and in Africa. And the trauma, the PTSD of trying to process everything that they've seen and experienced and done can feel insurmountable. And then when we look at women, we are experiencing the loss of loved ones, the loss of assets, the loss of land, and rape being a tool that is used in a lot of wars. And this is the desecration of the feminine temple within the womb space. The womb space, our wombs speak to each other. There is a collective womb field where we are all tapped into, whether you are conscious of it or not. And so those that have awakened wombs are often feeling this devastation on a very real level. We're holding that, all of us. We're holding the pain and the trauma of this war and all of the wars that have come before. When we look at generationally, there's been studies done, and I can put a link below later, on Holocaust predecessors. And it was found that a lot of them are holding the same trauma wounds that their ancestors did. So they're not there, they're not experiencing, you know, that experience in the Holocaust, in those camps, but they are having the same trauma response now, like a few generations later. And so science is coming to realize that we are holding the trauma post-generationally of a lot of the trauma that our ancestors held, and particularly because we've been warring for a few thousand years and more, the effect of war and the effect of what I want to say is this lost feminine, these lost spiritual traditions which actually help us process. So also, a lot of us, some of us have a remembering of a golden age, a time 7,000-8,000 years ago, before we had this rise of this patriarchal, wounded masculine culture. And the thing is, I want to make a point here. This way of being, of organizing societies, of educating, of language, of being, of expressing, is so part of our world, like it's created the matrix, that we can't see it and realize the effect that it has. But a lot of us have this remembering of this golden age. And when we kind of can connect to that thread of this golden age, there was a time when the feminine was honored. There was a time when the feminine was consulted on matters where it was important to think about the planet and the collective. So decisions were taken in regard to resources, in regard to land, in regard to food, in regard to managing things that were taking care of the all, thinking about conservation, thinking about taking care of everyone. And there was a time when the wombs of women were seen as the temple of life. It was seen as the portal of life, the way that things are birthed. And there was a very deep reverence for the feminine and for women. And so men and women had practices to process trauma. There was spiritual practices that were there to process trauma, and particularly the trauma of war. So in ancient Egyptian, Babylonian, Sumerian times, there was known an archetype. There were temples dedicated to sacred prostitution, and this was where ancient female shamans had a way of using the transmutational magic in the womb to take the wounds of war out of men. This was a sacred sexual practice that helped to process the wounds of war. And this is why a lot of us are doing this unconsciously, processing this war unconsciously now, because we have this remembering, this like red thread where our wombs are connected, that we have this ability. But the problem is this womb space has been desecrated. The feminine has been dishonored. She's been removed from the history books. Her goddess temples have been taken down. Her sacred arts have been taken and being used just for wounded masculine traits. So we've really lost the power and the magic of this sacred art, this sacred mystery tradition. So those of us that feel this connection to this golden age almost have a double trauma. The trauma of what's going on collectively, and the trauma of this is not how it should be. There is another way. Why aren't we doing this? So I want to share now some of my thoughts on how you can process this trauma. And I'm going to start by taking a drop of oil. I feel really guided. This oil is spikenard. It's a very sacred oil that is and was used by sacred healers in the priestess temples, myrfors they were called. And it's really the consolement oil. It's an oil to really help through this death, rebirth, life cycle. So then, how to process this trauma? The first thing is to really acknowledge that consciously or unconsciously you are processing trauma, especially the trauma of your generations losing loved ones in war, and you losing loved ones in war. And also the trauma of rape as a tool for war and what that really means. The desecration of this sacred womb temple, the portal of life, where we birth creation, where the feminine wisdom comes in. This is what is being desecrated. So how to process it? The first thing, as I said, is to really acknowledge that this is happening. And you are carrying, so many of us are carrying so much unprocessed trauma that is collectively normal to hold. So collectively, it's normal for us to be carrying around so much pain and trauma. So, I almost want to say, no wonder we're so messed up. We're carrying so much weight and trauma from our generational lines and collectively from the trauma of war and the rape of war. So the first thing is to acknowledge it. And then the second part is to really start working within the womb field, sacred womb practices, to start to cleanse and clear yourself, first of all, from this unconscious pain and trauma, because there's rememberings within your bones, within your blood, within your DNA, from within the vortex, the energetic vortex of your womb space, which is the vortex of creation, the vortex of your wisdom, to start to clear this trauma. And so many people that have done work with me say, oh my goodness, I had no idea I was holding so much. So when you can release that for yourself, there's a real feeling of liberation and coming back to your original innocence, your original blueprint, who you are as a divine being in a human body here to experience. And so when you start to release this trauma that you're holding within yourself, you're able to more step into that highest potential for yourself, that beautiful vision and mission that you have for the world. You're able to come home to yourself and to who you really are and what is really important. Because, sorry, I'm starting to process talking about it, because you're not holding onto this trauma that you're holding unconsciously inside of yourself. Now, there are deeper practices that you can then do once you've cleared yourself to invite in your ancestors to receive this healing, to receive this transmutation of the trauma of war and rape, and to be freed themselves. So when you do it for yourself, you can also invite your ancestors to receive that healing and that transmutation. And I can taste it now. So how I work is through light frequency, because light frequency has this purity of spirit. It's without words. It's able to very powerfully cleanse and clear all of the traumas of the war, of war and rape within our wombs, and then also for our ancestors. And then importantly, then you can also pass this on to your predecessors, because within our womb, we have these beautiful eggs that are then fertilized and then born as babies, some of them. And unless we've cleared this, we are passing on to our predecessors the trauma that our ancestors hold, because it comes down through the DNA and energetically. So they are holding trauma of war and rape within their cells. And so you're able then to offer this healing, this transmutation to your predecessors, whether they're born or unborn. And that is such a beautiful gift, because it frees them from this extreme heaviness and pain and wounds that our ancestors have experienced. And what that enables us to do is to start to rebirth a new world, a world where the restoration of the feminine is complete within us, and we're able then to stand up as leaders more, that brings in this feminine perspective that is so needed in the world. It's needed in companies, it's needed in politics and government and how we organize societies. Because right now I don't see any leaders that have this divine feminine, divine masculine integrated energetic blueprint in order to lead our world into this new earth that is being birthed right now, and it needs both. So that's my invitation, how you process it. This is calling you. I'm just feeling now off the top of my head, I would be willing to offer this transmutation for a small fee. We could do like a group healing. So if there's enough people that are interested in that, reach out to me. You can comment below or send me a DM or a message. And if there's enough people, I will put something together. I normally do that when we're in a whole program, because there's things that you need to do before, but I'm actually feeling the energy very strongly now. But I would like to do that in a sacred container that's a held space. So if you are feeling what I'm saying, and if you're like, gosh, Kelly, I want to clear it, then just reach out to me and I'll see what we can put together. And now as we finish, I just want to come together in a few moments of meditation, really, to send love to Ukraine, to Russia, to the leaders, to the decision makers, to all of them. Because if they are acting the way they are, then they need love. Like there's something seriously missing from their psyche and their ability to connect to the divine within that is making them take these decisions. So they're lost. So let's send them love. So I'm just going to invite us for a minute or so, prayer and silence to finish. So thank you everyone for joining. You can close your eyes now. And we're gonna just come down, closing your eyes and just really calling and gathering all of your energy down into your body. calling your energy away from your to-do list, from people, situations, anything that's stopping you from being in your body. And just really call and gather now all of your energy all the way down. Feeling how you're sitting on the chair, perhaps your feet are on the floor. Really feeling the floor, the seat beneath you. And inviting your back to lean back. Breathing into your chest and your heart. We're just going to take a moment now to connect collectively with those that are in conflict on both sides. And from your heart field, just sending the energy of love, universal love. And in fact, you can probably feel that this universal love is pouring over your head and through your crown chakra. So it's almost like you're a channel for this love. You may see it as a light frequency, and it's pouring down through your head and coming out from your heart. And all of our hearts are joining collectively to send this love. So just keep connecting to this light frequency coming down through your head into your heart and then coming out from your heart field. Joining together and sending it out to this area of conflict, to the land, spirits of the land, the guardians of the land, the people on both sides. And just taking a breath now, coming back into your body. And if you wish, you can obviously continue that practice on your own. Come back and listen to the recording. So just taking some deep breaths and coming back to your body. And just joining back in. Thank you so much for listening, for joining, whether you join live or on the replay. Please share this with whoever you think would resonate. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Lots of love.